What's up, guys? It's Sam here, and CES 2019 is going on right now, and there's tons of news coming out of Las Vegas about the driverless cars or autonomy with self-driving, and just all this news about it almost turning into a car show and the cars that can drive themselves out there. And that's something that I follow and that I pay attention to. So I wanted to talk about how that is going to influence us going forward and my thoughts on you and I driving a vehicle, as much as you may think you like doing it, is probably going to be illegal relatively soon. But before I do that, make sure you press that subscribe button and the little bell notification. If it has little parenthesis things around it, that means you'll get notified every time I post a video, and that's pretty awesome. Also, if you just gently take your finger and you just gently tap on the thumbs up button, that helps out the channel. With that being said, let's get into the video. So, I am a fan of Tesla and what they are doing with their self-driving, or their autopilot, as they like to call it, in Waymo, and there's a boatload of other companies that are working on this as well. Waymo has actually started a commercial program in Arizona where you can actually just order a self-driving car from your phone. So you have to have an invite to get into the program. It's in a geo-fenced, a specific area, meaning like there's a specific geographic area that you can go into, but it's a self-driving vehicle. If you can take the person out of Uber and you can just have the car drive itself, the cost associated with that will come down. So that is one portion of it. Another portion of it is that excuse me, ooh, that was some sausage that I had for breakfast. That is the vast majority of the problems, or the vast majority of the accidents every year in the United States, are caused by you and me. We're us just not paying attention, and we think we're great drivers, but everybody thinks they're a great driver, and then we get into accidents because we're not fucking paying attention. So I believe in a relatively short period of time, with the amount of data that, say, Tesla or Google can, or any of these other companies, you know what I mean? Cruise Automation is also, which is owned by Amazon, and I think has partnered with a couple other companies, is they're going to be coming out with these essentially like AI drivers. You know what I mean? Like an AI is going to drive you, kind of like Google Assistant or Siri, or the Echo, or Alexa for Amazon, where that will be able to drive you. And it's going to be a magnitude it's going to be a magnitude better in terms of the ability of it to navigate the world safely, in terms of how it gets around. And if there's, say, 40,000 deaths a year in the United States, fatalities, not including the property damage and all the other shit that doesn't even get reported when people get into accidents and they don't want their insurance to go up, so they just don't do anything about it. All of those things are going to, it's not going to happen overnight. It's definitely not going to happen overnight. But we're at the beginning of a tidal wave of this completely disrupting how we get around here in the United States. Back when cars started becoming cheaper, gas was cheap, and people could travel around, it's just been a perpetual increase in terms of the total aggregate number of miles driven in the United States. And if that cost were to come down, right, like some kids, like, to spend $5,000 on a vehicle is a huge stretch for them, but they might be able to spend $200 or $300 to like drive them around. You know what I mean? Like, and if, especially, you might not be able to get around to all the places you want to do if you took Uber or Lyft with that. But if you had a self-driving vehicle and the cost was, 40 to 80% less than Uber or Lyft, then you could start having a lot more freedom, and the actual number of miles driven will probably over the next several years start to take off again, because then people who want to go see things that don't want to drive there or don't want to deal with the hassle of driving in, say, New York City or Boston or just anywhere, like taking a cross-country road trip, and some people find driving stressful, so that's going to go away. So I think the number of miles driven is going to increase. Now, with the total number of miles, plus obviously like the safety and the property damage, those in terms of like the total number of deaths, the total number of injuries, all that shit's going to go down. Because you have this a driver, you think you're a good driver, multiply whatever you know and how attentive you are times 1,000. Because if you in terms of your entire life, right, have driven, you probably haven't, even though you think you drive a lot, you probably come nowhere near 1 million miles. So think about that. And then you have this AI, artificial intelligence, that's driven, 17 billion. You probably driven way, way less than 1 million miles. Even if you drive all the time, you've probably driven less than 1 million miles. It takes quite a while to get to 1 million miles. But if you were to have a driver that has all this experience of 17 billion, which that's a B versus an M, tremendous amount of data. So they get all those fringe cases, all the anomaly cases of like weird shit happening, like a plastic bag blowing across the street and like somebody swerving out of the way and hitting a telephone pole, like all this kind of stuff you get when you drive 17 billion miles. And that is going to be so much safer from a probability standpoint than you or I driving, that it's just a number of years before some legislative body, either here in the United States, probably California or New York or something, or Massachusetts, will make it illegal for cars that drive themselves. And like, meaning you and I will probably not be able to buy a new car that drives, that we drive. We will probably be required to purchase a car that drives itself. In just a number of years, I would expect this to happen. And then the next step would be to ban people from driving. And this video will be watched in, 17 years or 9.5 years. And somebody's going to be like, oh, this fucking clown was right. Because it's just a matter of time before legislators, like, it doesn't seem like it makes a prudent, it's not like a prudent idea to have somebody who has the probability of getting to an accident, human, of say a 1% or 2% chance of getting into an accident versus a AI that drives around that has, 18 decimal places out in terms of how the probability, you know what I mean? It's 0.0000000% that they're going to get into an accident. And the reason it's not out more decimal places is because you and I are still on the road driving. So I just expect that to happen and as there's more and more and more money poured into this emerging industry, it is going to really start changing the way we do things. It will probably take, the next 3 to 8 years or so to have the impact where you're going to be seeing them every day. In the next several years, you're going to start to see them every single day where you're like, oh, that's cool. And let me get a picture of it, you know what I mean? Where you see a car driving the road and nobody's in it. And in 8 years or 10 years or whatever the time frame is, that's more along the lines where people are going to start thinking about, oh shit, this mother and daughter and she was pregnant just got killed because she wasn't paying attention and she was on her phone or whatever the case is. I think we should make this legislation that says you can't buy fucking cars with steering wheels in it where we drive them. Anyways, if you guys find this interesting, let me know down below. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. I think a lot of people believe that they wouldn't use a self-driving vehicle, and this is probably the same thing you said about a fucking cell phone. So I take what people say with a grain of salt, because once you experience not having to drive, maintain a vehicle, or do any of the things associated with driving, it frees up a lot of capacity in terms of the human mind and just what you're capable of doing. And just like anything, with a cell phone, it took a certain amount of time. Like, oh, I don't need a new cell phone. My flip phone works fine. Right? Now everybody in the country or the world pretty much has a cell phone in their pocket, a smartphone. So it's just a matter of time before people start coming around and seeing the tremendous amount of value in these things. If you guys want to follow along with my journey of documenting my way to get to $100 a day online, at some point I'm going to test drive another Tesla. So if you want to see a video on that, make sure you press that like button and let me know down below in the comments. Which Tesla would you like to see the test drive of? I've test driven the Model S and I've been in the Model X before. I'm thinking the Model 3 might be cool, but I think I want to test drive the Model X. I feel like that would be, if I were to purchase a Tesla, I feel like I'd want the Model X, just from the standpoint of all the room that it has inside of it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.